Hey guys, we are back with some more Night of the Twisters. We're going to start with the 6 o'clock hour. Last time we were at 5 o'clock and kind of a little bit of the introduction. So we met Dan, our main character, and he talked about a red letter day and a black letter day. And he talked about a red letter day meaning that something good's gonna happen and you want to be prepared for it and you wish that you had done your hair and you'd put on nice clothes and been prepared to smile for pictures. That was more of a red letter day when something good happens. And then he thought that there should be these black letter days when you should get noticed if something bad is going to happen that day. If there was going to be a car accident or if you were going to get a bad grade in class, you need to be prepared. And so he was saying that this day in June when all of this very bad weather hit should have been a black letter day. So in the 5 o'clock hour, we meet Dan and we meet his best friend Arthur, and they're different. And Arthur's very smart. He studies things. He just does things a little bit differently than Dan. And they learn about his aunt, Dan's Aunt Goldie, who is kind of going through some hard times financially, and so Dan's mom has Arthur and Dan kind of do some classes through her just to kind of help her get some extra cash for herself. So they're doing that. So they take some classes with Aunt Goldie, and then we learn about Arthur's sisters. He has quite a few sisters. One of them is Ronnie Vay and Stacy, and they're very tall and very thin and very pretty and blah blah blah. And Dan kind of likes the older one there, and they're trying to get the boys to take them down back into town on their bikes, and the boys don't want to, and so they kind of go back and forth with that. So then they come home and have dinner, just really kind of setting up that it was kind of just an ordinary day for Dan and Arthur. Just a day. It was nothing special. Nothing cried out and said, this is going to be a bad day. You need to get ready. Nothing said that. It was just a normal day. They had ridden their bikes. They had talked to Arthur's sisters. Yeah, nothing special. They'd gone to the class with Aunt Goldie, just like they always do. Okay? So that's where we're going to pick up. We are on the 6 o'clock hour. Set the table, Danny, Mom said as soon as we walked in. Your dad has to eat and run tonight. Okay. I detoured Arthur toward the bathroom so we could wash. Is that chocolate pudding or chocolate pie, he asked, sniffing the air. He can identify a dessert faster than my Grandpa Hatch, who I used to think held the world's record. We took turns lathering our hands, squeezing the bar of soap back and forth to each other and laughing. Back in the kitchen, I was relieved to see that my brother Ryan's high chair was empty. I loved it when he was napping. Where's Ryan? I asked anyway. Mom was opening a bag of wiener buns. She looked tiredly across the room at Arthur, who was leaning on the doorway watching me count out plates. Hi there, Arthur, she said, blowing her hair out of her eyes. Baby's cutting teeth, Danny. It took all afternoon for him to fall asleep. I could smell the pork and beans and could hear it bubbling on the stove. Beans and wieners were our standard supper when Ryan was fussy. Can Arthur eat with us, I asked. If he calls his mother, she said, matter-of-factly. Before Ryan was born, Mom used to call Arthur and me her twins, meaning my buddy and I were practically inseparable. They were always together. Of course, Arthur has dark skin and a mop of wavy black hair, whereas I'm one of those yellow-haired, freckle-faced types. He's short and large. I'm not. We could never pass for brothers, let alone twins, because we're different in other ways, too. He's a thinker. I'm a doer. He's crazy about books, and I go bonkers over bikes. Just the same, we consider ourselves blood relatives, and that's what counts. As Arthur stepped to the wall phone and dialed, Mom gave me a sideways look that meant, why don't you clear things with me first? I just lifted an extra glass and plate off the shelf and pretended not to notice. To tell you the truth, I halfway felt sorry for Mom right then. I remembered how jolly she used to be before Ryan was born. Last year when she was working, she dressed up every day in her beauty salon uniform, her shiny brown hair and this wedge cut like Dad liked it. Now her hair was kind of stringy and her nerves were frazzled. She claimed to be perfectly content staying home with her baby and her sewing machine, but I wasn't convinced. I overheard something she said to Dad one night when they were getting ready for bed. "I miss me," she said, sounding so lonesome for her old self that it kind of made me sad. I frowned as I laid out forks on 4 napkins. We'd been one small, happy family for 11 great years. John Hatch, Linda Hatch, and me, Dan. As far as I was concerned, we could have gone on that way forever without Ryan. What are we having tonight?" Arthur asked into the phone. "Potato salad?" He made a face. "Mrs. Hatch asked if I could eat over here. Can I?" "Yeah, honest." Long pause. His mouth went dimple on one side as he held the phone out towards my mom. "She wants to talk to you." "Stir the beans, Danny," Mom said. "Hello, Karen, what's up?" "Yes, I asked him, more or less." She grinned. "You know how it goes, wherever they light first." "Yes, I'm sure. John's going to be leaving anyway soon. He's helping his father on the farm tonight." She listened for a while. "Yes, we were out on the place last week too, taking down storm windows. Mother Hatch has a fit if she doesn't get her fresh air." "Ask if Arthur can stay and watch TV after," I whispered, feeling Mom's biceps and the arm that held up the phone. Not bad, I thought. She had been lugging that baby around and she was getting her shape. "Hey, feel her muscles," I invited Arthur, still whispering, but he wouldn't. Mom hung up. "Why didn't you ask?" I began. "Danny," she cut me off, "will you not be so rude when I'm on the phone?" Then Ryan started crying, and Mom's face looked the way I felt, having just been scolded. "Threw 2 extra wieners in the pan," she said, as she headed for Ryan's room, which had once been my room before the bunny wallpaper and the rocking chair. I got moved into the den, as Mom still calls the extra bedroom when she forgets. I took the package of wieners out of the fridge and added some to the safe side. I added 3 to be on the safe side. At a baseball game, Arthur can eat 4 hot dogs and still have room for an order of nachos. We had hardly got TV going when my dad walked in the back door. I heard him sling his John Deere hat on the wall peg, heard his booming voice next. "Don't tell me that Darlington kid's here again!" I poked Arthur, who smiled happily. He knows how much my dad loves to tease. However, Dad wasn't teasing a few minutes later when he raised me up off the floor by one arm. "Is that your brand new racing bike lying out there in the weather?" he asked me, nose to nose. He let me drop to the floor from the great height, but the quiz continued. You know what baseball-sized hail can do to a bicycle? He marched on to the bathroom as Arthur and I got up, exchanging eyebrows. "No, what?" Arthur had to ask. "Ever see what a meat mallet does to a tough steak?" I hate it when people answer questions with questions, but he got his point across. That bad?" Arthur muttered, as we went outside to put my bike in the garage. Arthur's bike was already so hashed, we left it on the grass where it was. Later during supper, with my baby brother fussing and spitting applesauce all over, I remember how nice and peaceful meals were 6 months ago. Even our cat, Minerva, couldn't be in the house at mealtimes anymore, not since we caught her licking egg off the baby's face. Oh. The worst part was, any good news I'd saved for supper time seemed to rank second to whatever cutesy sound Ryan was experimenting with at the moment. "Blug," Ryan would say, bubbling and drooling every time. And Dad's head would just swivel like a machine away from me towards him, and the slightest little "nah" made before cutting loose with an ear-splitting scream would get Mom straight to her feet. Now, having finished this quota of hot dogs, even Arthur was making eyes at my brother. "Kitsy, kitsy," he cooed. Walking across Ryan's shirt with his fingers, Ryan rewarded him with a silly smile. Used to be, we had a conversation at the dinner table. "Well, Danny, what'd you do at school today?" Dad would ask, buttering a roll or something. I'd tell him and he'd listen. He'd laugh or shake his head or make a joke about what I'd said. Mom might get on it too, or she might just sit there waiting her turn. In those days, she was doing her hair at Carol's boutique, so she had lots of stuff to tell every night. If Arthur happened to be eating with us, Dad would include him too. "Go over your sisters' names again, Wart," he might say, as he had off and on for the last 2 years. I think I've nearly got him straight now, but one more time ought to do it. Then Arthur would recite, and Mom would try not to giggle. Eustacia Marie, he began, his brown eyes serious as anything, Veronica Vey, Gwyneth Elaine, Tabitha Tess, Theodosia, Desiree, and the baby, Angelique. Angelique's the last. She doesn't have a middle name because Mom is going to add it later when she gets to wanting another baby. I swear it was like listening to Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus at Sunday school. Every time Arthur recited them deadpan, and every time Dad cocked his head to one side pretending to memorize the names. His mustache would twitch, and I know he was holding back his loud ha-has. Sometimes on request, Arthur would also recite the titles of the paperback novels the names came from. The list was the funniest to Mom, who had to read half of them. She and Mrs. Darlington loved to read books. Ah, yes, I thought, stabbing the last bean on my plate, the Hatch family BR. Mom handed Arthur and me the wedges of chocolate pie just before Ryan started in again with his stiff-legged screaming. Have you tried rubbing his gums with perigarmic? Dad asked, all concerned. Well, I may have to if I want to get Mother Hatch's dress finished tonight. Mom took Ryan over her lap and let him suck on a piece of ice. Are you still going out to the farm tonight? I asked once I got the chance. I have to, Danny. The tractor quit 2 days ago. The mechanic there in Phillips can't get to it before Friday, and your grandfather has to put in his crop of Milo. Then Dad was up, pushing his chair back and kissing Mom goodbye. He rubbed Ryan's fuzzy head and gave my neck a squeeze before he took off. I'll have dessert later, he said. Dad's expecting me before dark so he can tow that sucker back into the shed, he said. He slapped on his cap and headed for the bathroom to put on his green coveralls. My dad's a mechanic. He loves getting his hands into greasy old engines and making them purr again. In fact, Dad's pride and joy, a rare white 1953 Corvette, stood engine stripped in our garage that night waiting for new main bearings. I knew for a fact Dad would rather have been working on his vet than fixing a bucket of old bolts Grandpa calls a tractor. But my father is a good old son. I've heard Grandpa tell him that a dozen times. On his way out of the house, Dad yelled at me to do the dishes for Mom. But Arthur's here, I hollered back, remembering that Arthur never worked when he had company at his house. All the more reason to help, Dad answered. I groaned, but it came out sounding worse than I meant it to, and Dad was back in the kitchen in no time. Listen, young man, your mother hasn't had a minute's rest all day. You do the dishes and anything else she wants you to do. Do you hear? His finger poked a hole in my shirt. It wouldn't hurt you to babysit your brother once in a while either. He let the back door slam behind him, and I could still hear what he said as he got into the pickup. The sun doesn't rise and set on you. And that is the end of 6 o'clock hour. We'll be back next time for 7 o'clock.